Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Jay. And it is so great to be back at ROMA today. I want to thank ROMA Chair Krista Lowry for organizing a couple of just fantastic days full of great conversations. And I want to thank each and every one of you for the vital work you do in communities across Ontario. To state the obvious, we live in uncertain times. I share your deep concerns about the economic implications of Trump's tariff threats. And I want to be very clear. In the face of the new administration's threats to Canada, maybe in the matter of weeks, the Ontario Greens are committed to working across party and jurisdictional lines to defend Canadian workers, Canadian jobs, and Canadian businesses. At this critical moment, we need unity, not an election. We need stability, not an election. And we need a premier focused on your job, not his job. As many of you know, I grew up on a grain and cattle farm. I learned firsthand about the values and the strong sense of community that makes rural life so special. I also saw firsthand the challenges that rural communities face, challenges that I've spoken with so many of you about over the past couple of days, like access to health care and housing, the threats to farmland, and paying for rural infrastructure when your tax base is so small. And I want you to know that Ontario Greens are listening, because for far too long, provincial governments have ignored the needs of rural communities. You know, the Ford government is talking about spending billions in the GTA while rural hospitals close. People line up for doctors. The housing crisis gets worse, and rural communities are struggling to keep your roads and bridges open. Greens believe in a provincial government that lifts rural communities up, not one that leaves them behind. And that's why today I'm proud to announce our plan for rural Ontario, which addresses 5 key challenges that rural communities are facing. First, addressing the housing and homeless crisis that we see across the province. You know, housing starts across Canada are up, housing starts in Ontario are down. A whole generation of young people, including my 2 daughters, are wondering if they'll ever own a home. And there is no city or town in Ontario where a full-time minimum wage worker can afford average monthly rent. And the province holds the keys to unlocking homes people can afford. But the Premier is more interested in unlocking profits for wealthy land speculators. And so Greens believe it's time to put people before profits and build homes that people can afford in the communities they know and love, including in rural Ontario. You know, AMO's report shows how homelessness is skyrocketing in rural communities, up 150% since 2016. So instead of wasting money on tunnels and mega spas on Toronto's waterfront, Greens will provide financial support to build at least 250,000 affordable nonprofit and co-op homes across Ontario, and build 60,000 permanent supportive housing spaces with wraparound mental health, addictions, and other supports so we can end homelessness in your communities. We will make provincial land available at no cost to municipalities for affordable homes. And we will help you unlock more land for affordable homes by reinstating the Brownfield Remediation Fund. As part of our New Deal, yeah, please. As part of our New Deal for cities and municipalities, Greens will reverse past government's downloading of community housing and shelter costs onto municipalities while make sure that you maintain local control. To take some of the load off of your budgets and to give you the support you need to house people. Second, we will expand rural health care access and address shortages facing your communities. Hundreds of people lined up in the snow in Walkerton to access a family doctor speaks volumes about how much this government has abandoned rural health care. Greens recognize that rural communities need unique supports in order to fix the doctor shortage and keep your hospitals open. We will recruit 3,500 new family doctors and primary health care supporters so we can ensure everybody has access to primary health care within 3 to 5 years. And we will expand team-based health care across communities north, south, east, west, rural, northern, and urban in Ontario. We will increase funding for rural hospitals so you don't have to close emergency departments and cut the local cost share in half to build new rural hospitals. We will address the healthcare staffing shortages by providing equal pay for nurses, doctors, and PSWs across communities and healthcare settings while providing fair compensation for travel to treat patients at home. Because we know that if we're going to care for our loved ones, we have to care for the people who care for them. Third, we will support the economic engine that is Ontario's food and farming sector. Greens know that our $50 billion food and farming economy, employing over 870,000 people, is key to Ontario's prosperity. That's why Greens will establish a food belt to permanently protect prime farmland in this province. Right now, uncertainty from south of the border is increasing risk for farmers, and that's why Greens will increase funding for risk management programs to protect your businesses and bottom lines. At the same time, we will mitigate risk by strengthening local supply chains and food security. Farmers are embracing innovation through ag tech to increase yields, reduce costs, and increase environmental sustainability. And that's why Ontario Greens will invest in ag tech innovations and pay farmers for environmental goods and services. Fourth, we will protect the natural spaces that make our rural communities so special. I've been spending a lot of time knocking on doors across the province in places like Parry Sound, Muskoka, and I hear from so many people who are worried about the destruction of their forests, lakes, and rivers, the places that make home, home. They know firsthand the costs and risks of unsafe weather fueled by climate change. That is why Greens will reverse the government's attack on environmental protections, wetland preservation, and conservation authorities. We will work with Indigenous nations to protect 30% of natural spaces by 2030 and expand the green belt to include a blue belt to protect our lakes, rivers, and wetlands, to protect us from flooding. We will halt expensive highways like 413 and the Bradford Bypass that will pave over farmland, the green belt, and waterways, increasing flood risks without reducing travel times. And finally, I've spoken to so many of you about how decades of provincial downloading have created infrastructure funding shortfalls that prevent the repair and maintenance of your roads, bridges, and public services in rural communities. And that's why Greens are committed to creating a new long-term, predictable municipal fund for rural and northern communities to improve roads, bridges, and other critical infrastructure. It's just not fair. It's not fair that this government is so focused on spending billions in the GTA when rural communities are struggling to keep their roads and bridges open. Greens will also expand the capacity and reliability of our electricity grid so that we can create jobs while making sure rural residents can take advantage of money-saving opportunities from heat pumps, electric cars, and trucks. We will implement a $2 billion a year climate adaptation fund to help municipalities make sure that your infrastructure is resilient to the impacts of climate change, because people shouldn't go weeks without electricity or other vital services when the storms hit. And Greens also know how important it is to invest in the social infrastructure for rural communities, providing dedicated funding to clear the infrastructure backlog for public schools and to ensure affordable childcare is available in all communities across this province. As I look around this room, I see so many strong local leaders who are working hard to build vibrant communities in the face of a government that has left them to fend for themselves. Greens know. We know that you need local champions at Queen's Park who understand what communities actually need. We need local champions who are prepared to work not for their party, not for me as their leader, but for you and your residents. And that's why we have local champions ready to run in communities across this province who are going to work with you and for you to make rural communities strong, prosperous, great places to live. Thank you for the great work that you do. Merci, Megwitch, and have a fantastic day, everyone. Thank you.